Welcome to Peiwen's Note. Today we have the world-famous violinist Joseph Lin, and he is also a professor at Juilliard School. Hello, Joseph Lin.
Hello,
welcome
Peiwen.
back to Taiwan.
Thank you.
Last night I went to your solo recital in Taipei, and it was really amazing. Would you like to tell us what did you play?
Thank you, Peiwen. It's really so kind of you to come and listen to this program that Helen Huang and I played, and it's a set of pieces that means a lot to us. The Beethoven last of the 10 piano and violin sonatas was the opening piece, and that's a piece we played before as part of a Beethoven sonata cycle we did a few years ago. And following that we played the Ravel sonata. And then in the second half, the first piece I played was the variations on The Last Rose of Summer by Ernst for solo violin, and we concluded the program with the great C major fantasy by Schubert.
And can I ask you a question? That Ernst sounds very difficult, and you actually play without a chin rest, shoulder rest. And can you tell us why?
Well, this has been a long journey for me. I grew up, like most violinists, learning to play with the support of certainly a chin rest, but also shoulder rest that was just assumed to be part of the setup. And it wasn't until, I guess, about 15 years ago now that I thought it might be nice to try without the shoulder rest. And I did so, and had a little bit of a first attempt, then realized, well, actually there was a moment after a year of trying that I felt an injury happening, and I realized that I was trying this but not in the right way. So I went back to the shoulder rest for a while, and then another year went by, and I got it again in my head to try again, but to learn from what happened and learn from whatever injury or pain I felt. And so I knew in trying a second time without the shoulder rest that this would be a long process, one in which I should say that what drew me most to it was the sense of closeness to the instrument, and that the voice of the instrument was more alive, and that there was potentially more freedom. But in that freedom there was also risk, a kind of physical risk, or perhaps not being able to handle the playing or the notes as well. So I knew it would be a kind of trial and error process, and I realized two things. That one thing, I couldn't treat the violin as a stable object. That unlike the way many of us have learned to play, where the violin is rock solid and we only move our bow and our left hand like this, but the violin doesn't move, I realized in doing this I need to let the violin move. But ideally, with the violin moving, you move more with the music and connected to the music. And secondly, I realized that there was always the risk that I might hit some pain. And rather than have that set me back, I would listen to my body and learn that if there was pain, that's just my body telling me there's a better way to do this. So, long story short, I was without the shoulder rest for maybe 10 years, and then during, actually a little bit before the pandemic, I started doing some explorations with period performance, Baroque setup or classical setup with gut strings, and in doing that kind of exploration, I took the chin rest off as well, and basically haven't gone back. And of course it's challenging, but I find both the freedom that it allows and the connection, the really direct and intimate connection to the music, the phrasing, is something I can no longer imagine giving up. So I'm happy to be able to continue exploring this way.
You feel the music is just right here.
Yeah.
Violin is not there anymore.
Yeah, the violin moves, but you move with it, and with that you move with the music.
And 1996, a very special year for you. You graduated from Juilliard Pre-College, and you also won the first prize of the Concert Artist Guild. And how did this help your career?
Yeah, that is an interesting point in my life. I can't say I was entirely focused on music. I was still young. I graduated from high school that year, and was set to go to Harvard for my undergraduate, and was not at all certain that music was going to be my career. But having won the Concert Artists Guild competition, what that did was ensure that I would have quite a few performances lined up over the following years. And with that, Harvard, with its wealth of varied experiences, different new possible paths, all of that I was happy to take in, but I always had to keep practicing because I had these concerts lined up. So I guess I was lucky to have that balance of many other things to keep opening myself to, but the performances and enough guidance to keep developing artistically and musically.
And you were a founding member of Formosa String Quartet. And what international prize did you win in 2006?
Yes, we were very fortunate to win first prize in what was then called the London International String Quartet Competition. I believe it's now called the Wigmore Hall Competition. No, I'm not positive. I think it has evolved a little bit. But there too, we did that competition a little bit almost on a whim, but a desire to challenge ourselves to put together that kind of repertoire and bring it to an international setting and stage. And we didn't exactly expect to win, but given that opportunity, we tried to make the very best of it. And the quartet continues with different members and has evolved over the past now almost 2 decades since then.
Wow.
Amazingly, time flies. And that, looking back, that was a crucial early point in the quartet's life.
When you won that prize, you also made recording.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we were very
For a young string
fortunate. Yeah, really fortunate to have that opportunity.
From 2007 to 11, you taught at Cornell.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, that was my first proper job, and I was very grateful for such a nice opportunity to get a footing in some path in music. And it's an interesting situation at Cornell. It's not a large department of music, relatively small, like some other Ivy League departments of music, and yet in this department of music there are some faculty positions for performance, and violin being one of them. And so I had the great fortune of having a very interesting and diverse set of colleagues around me in all areas of music, not strictly performance, but enough of support for performance activities to do what I loved doing, and be able to share that with students, and students who are coming to music not so much on a professional track, but one of great interest and curiosity and a lot of intellectual ability to go into their learning. So I really loved my time at Cornell, and also being surrounded by disciplines and fields of study that nourished the musical activity there.
You're teaching them music and compare with Bach.
Yeah, that was a
right?
personal project of mine. Yeah, that was wonderful to be able to draw on, especially the composers there. That's a strong aspect of what happens at the Cornell Music Department, and I brought the composers into this project to really delve deeply into the music and see how each person could be inspired, perhaps in different ways, and perhaps to write their own music.
I think your students were lucky to have you.
Oh, well, I learned at least as much through the process as the students do. I feel like I'm the student often in those situations.
You're so modest. Yeah. In 2011, you joined the Juilliard String Quartet as the first violinist. Tell us about this experience.
Well, that was certainly not something that a turn of events that I didn't expect at all. But the opportunity came up to audition when there was an opening in the quartet, and I was very fortunate that I was offered the position, and honored to have the chance to work with such wonderful, deep and experienced musicians for 7 or 8 years, and to delve into this great repertoire of string quartets, both the heart of the repertoire, 19th, 20th century music, and also a number of newly commissioned pieces that we worked on as well.
I come across with a modern piece. This is Yanato violin concertos. It's very, very beautiful. And can you tell us about who this composer?
That
when did you record it?
Takes me back to my Harvard years, although the playing of the piece and the recording took place a few years after I graduated, but James Yanatos was the conductor of the Harvard Radcliffe Orchestra for many decades, I think over 40 years.
Wow.
And so I knew him from my time as a student at Harvard. And it may have been to celebrate his 40th anniversary with the orchestra that this piece was programmed. I think it was 2003, and so I played the piece with the orchestra, and it was that live performance that was recorded and made into that album.
Oh, maybe someday you could perform this in Taiwan.
Yeah. Maybe such an opportunity. Yeah.
Actually, the first time I heard you perform is I was at NSO many years ago.
Right.
Did you still remember what you Which concerto did you play?
There have been a few now. I played
could it be
Korn.
Sibelius or no?
I did Korngold. I did Brahms.
Okay.
So Korngold, Brahms, Glazunov.
Maybe it's
And then
maybe Brahms.
Brahms, yeah. We did that
many years
when we went to Japan. There was a trip to Japan, Sapporo.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the one you remember. But yeah.
And may I ask you, do you have a favorite composer?
Well, I guess that's a hard question, but because the ones that we're so fortunate to be able to play and explore, over the course of a lifetime, they each have so much to offer, and the pieces, you can't even get through all of them. You may be able to get through the ones for your own instrument, but there's more, and they all relate to each other. Maybe Bach is deepest somehow, and nourishes the soul and the mind in a way that is endless and endlessly inspiring and stimulating and challenging. And well, I could say somewhat similar things about most of the other composers that we play. So you can, safely assume that the same sentiments I have for many of the other composers, Beethoven, Brahms, Mozart. Somehow the innocence and the connection to all of human experience that's in such seemingly simple music in Mozart. Maybe the appreciation for that. Also something of that in Mendelssohn's music. I think as we get older, that simplicity of connection is so touching, so powerful. Yeah.
And while you're growing up, you have a musical hero? Like, who's your favorite violinist?
Well, I often found myself drawing on kind of other slightly tangential sources of inspiration. Maybe not directly from violinists all the time, or not classical violinists. I remember there was a time that I was listening a lot to Mark O'Connor, who's an American fiddle violinist, and I actually did a little collaboration once with him. But that kind of freedom and ease and naturalness of.
Did you perform with him?
Yeah, I was in a small orchestra that played. We did a recording with him. Wow. But I listened to his music, and also the quality of improvisation and creation, writing your own music. So all of that, I think, is so important and gets you out of the small box sometimes that can be classical music training. I also love listening to piano music a lot, and there was a period of time where somebody like Glenn Gould, with his incredible conviction, very specific and maybe unique set of approaches, was fascinating to me. It got me to think and listen differently. So these kind of on the side ways of being inspired were often important to me.
Me too. I love to listen to Glenn Gould play Well-Tempered Clavier.
Yes.
And when I was studying the book one, still very difficult.
Right.
But somebody said if you could play Bach well, because it's the most difficult composer, then you could play other pieces. Then
you can
more
understand.
It's the chord progression.
Right.
It's help you, perform
absolutely
on the music.
Absolutely.
And you're so busy. You have 4 children. So how do you balance between the family and your career?
It's always a challenge. It's always a challenge. And
what do you do in your leisure time?
Well, I really just enjoy time with my children. Some of it is musical. We don't do it very intensely, but we do it with joy and love, and just lucky to be able to play music together in the family.
Do you have any small children play violin?
Yeah, they
really?
they all do violin or
that's
viola.
wonderful.
Yeah. So we have fun playing together.
Okay. You could form an orchestra.
little
the
group,
mini ensemble.
Yeah. But I enjoy going outside with them, going on bike rides or playing sports, different sports. But it's always a challenge to have enough time. You always feel bad that you're not doing enough of this. If you choose to do this, you give up that. If you choose to do that, you give up some of this. So you can never do everything fully. But then by giving up something, you realize that what you're trying to do has value, enough value that you're willing to give up something else. So yeah, I think that sense of trade-off in value is important, even if it means that you can't do everything.
And what advice do you have for the young musician out there today?
Boy, don't let some kind of external pressure get to you. Try to keep the connection, keep the love, keep the enjoyment pure. And it will serve you. It may not be something that becomes a career for everyone, but if that connection is pure, and the joy of learning, of listening, not just doing, but really listening, learning through listening, and the curiosity and sharing. If that stays there, everything else is not that important.
Oh, thank you. That's very deep. Thank you so much, Joseph, for your precious time.
Thank you.
And I really look forward to seeing you the next time.
I look forward to. Thank you, Peiwen.
谢谢。
谢谢你。